side characters in Yu-Gi-Oh! Ever clutch for the main character? In anime, what tends to happen is the main character is the only one who is able to deal with any kind of threat or issue that occurs in the story. Sure, the main character's friends will get involved in the conflict sometimes, but what usually happens is they fight the big bad claps them to establish, oh my god, they really are a big bad. They beat that guy, so that the main character can swoop in and save the day. That's typically what side characters sometimes are there for in the story. However, that trope got me thinking. In the Yu-Gi-Oh series, are there any moments where the main character didn't have to do all of the work? Are there any instances where the side characters dealt with the main plot threats without forcing Yugi to get involved? So let's take a look at each of the seasons in the original Yu-Gi-Oh series and see if any of the side characters dealt with the main plot threats. Let's start first with... To start things off, it's important to establish what the main goal is of each arc, so we know if the side characters are contributing towards it. The Dless Kingdom Arc has a simple goal. Yugi needs to win the tournament, defeat Maximilian Pegasus, and get his grandpa's soul back. With this goal in mind, did any of the side characters go out their way to help Yugi achieve this goal? Well, not really. Unfortunately, the entirety of the Dless Kingdom Arc is the Yugi show. But in fairness, that's not his fault. It's the structure of a tournament arc. When you can only have one winner and the goal is for the main character to be the winner of that tournament, there's very little room for side characters jumping in to defeat an opponent to help the main character progress. So unfortunately, it's a plot problem that the side characters can't really help here. And of course, this story is very personal to Yugi, since he's trying to save his grandpa by not losing. So it does make sense that nobody else can really help him with this burden. In terms of Joey and Kaiba, the two best duelists in Yugi's friend group, unfortunately they're also dueling for their own desires. Joey is dueling to save his sister, get the money for the eye operation, so he wants to win the tournament. Kaiba just wants to defeat Maximilian Pegasus so he can get his brother's soul back. So unfortunately, they're on their own paths, and in fact, both of them do stand in Yugi's way, in fact, hindering Yugi's progress in this arc. Joey duels against him, Yugi manages to beat him, Kaiba duels against him, threatens to jump off the side of a castle, so Yugi has to submit. The closest thing to a side character assist I think we get in this arc is Taya Gardner dueling against Mai Valentine, defeating Mai, and taking the star chips to give to Yugi so he can stay in the tournament. Now, of course, Mai purposefully lost this duel because she was indebted to Yugi because Yugi defeated Panic and got her star chips back. So in a way, it is still kind of a retroactive, if it wasn't for Yugi getting Mai the star chips, she would never have given back the star chips kind of thing. So it's like, is that a helping hand? It's hard to say. And you could make a little tiny case by the fact that because Joey defeated Bandit Keith in the Dless Kingdom finals, that meant that Yugi didn't have to duel against Bandit Keith later in the tournament. But he still had to duel Joey, and Joey's still gone all out. This is different to what happens in Battle City, so I'll talk about that when we get to it. Oh, I'll tell you one assist. Yugi and Joey versus Para and Dox. That is actually a 50% assist. Yes, I know Yugi is still involved in that duel, but the burden is still shared by Joey, and Joey isn't eliminated in the duel. He doesn't throw the duel or anything like that. Yugi did have to put in a lot of the work, but Joey helped, and they did end up winning with 50% of his ace monster and 50% of one of Yugi's monsters. So yeah. However, since there's only one main villain in this arc, it is kind of hard to get any side characters dealing with the main threats in this one. I guess there was a couple player killers that entered the tournament, like Panic, Ghost Kaiba. I don't know if there was any others. I think there was only two, but Yugi had to take those two out. So yeah, unfortunately, season 1 is the Yugi show. The Battle City arc's main threat is Marik Ishtar and his rare hunters, who are trying to collect the 3 god cards and defeat Yugi. Assuming that every rare hunter would have at some point gone and challenged Yugi to a duel, did anybody deal with these rare hunters so that Yugi didn't have to do it? Well, yes. While Yugi had to defeat Strings, Arcana, and Seeker by himself, since unfortunately Joey didn't clutch up in his duel against Seeker, Bandit Keith is technically beaten by Yugi and not the Pharaoh, which I am gonna count because most of the time people rely on the Pharaoh to win these duels. like 99% of the time. So I'm going to class a Yugi alone win as a point to the side characters, which is weird to say about the main character also being a side character, but that's what happens when your main character's got 2 people inside of him, so you know. So yeah, Yugi defeated Bandit Keith, and we also have the Loomis and Umbra duel, which were defeated together by Yugi and Kaiba. Yet again, like the Paradox Brothers, this is another one of those 50-50 shared the burden kind of thing. Yugi is still involved, so of course he's still helping out. However, this is the best example of this because Yugi more so assists Kaiba in this duel, so Kaiba can get out his Egyptian God card and absolutely obliterate Loomis and Umbra. So this is one of the rare times where Kaiba makes it to the end of a tag duel and is the one to deal the winning blow. So this one actually slips a little bit more in Kaiba's favor. He did a lot of work in this duel, so it was a good assist by him. However, we're still not done. Odeon is also a rare hunter. He was defeated by Joey Wheeler towards the end of the Battle City finals. So what Joey actually does here is remove a potential threat that Yugi would have had to face, because think about it, in a hypothetical scenario, Odeon doesn't have a change of heart midway through the duel, gets struck by lightning, dies. I guess the lightning also assisted in this duel as well, but let's just say Joey lost this duel. This would have probably meant that the finals would have been Marek Ishtar versus Seto Kaiba, and then Odeon versus Yugi. Yugi would have had to have beat Odeon. Kaiba, let's be honest, would have had to have lost against Marek Ishtar, and then now the finals are Marek and Yugi. That meant that Yugi had to have 2 high-stakes duels in a row, whereas obviously Yugi and Kaiba duel is a very hard duel, but there's no end of the world thing. But obviously you could say that if he lost that duel and Kaiba lost to Marek, then that would have been bad. But who knows, maybe Kaiba would have clutched it if he got to the finals. That would have been interesting. And of course, Yugi in the end was the one to defeat Marek. Bakura did take a stab at this, but ultimately failed. As well as Bakura, Mai took a stab at it, but failed. And Joey also took a stab at it, almost, but he also failed. But regardless, this season, there was a lot more assists from the side characters. Pretty good. Technically, the Virtual World Arc happens in the middle of the Battle City Arc, but we're just going to do it now instead. The main threat of this season is Noah Kaiba, Gozaboru Kaiba, and the Big Five wanted to defeat the gang, take their bodies, and escape the virtual world. What's interesting about this season is that it doesn't revolve around Yugi. It's actually about all of them. If anybody loses, they lose their bodies. They don't really care who they take. So everybody gets to shine. Yugi does defeat Gansley as Deep Sea Warrior. However, Taya defeats Crumb as Nightmare Penguin, albeit with the tiniest bit of help from Yugi's Dark Magician. But I did a duel analysis video of this, and it was established that she absolutely could have won this duel, and what she did was not shenanigans. It was absolutely fine. It's part of a deck, so all good. So straight away, Taya Gardner clutched a duel against the Big Five and eliminated one. Think in a hypothetical scenario, if we went full 100% Yugi has to solve every threat, Taya would have lost here, Yugi would have come in through that ice wall or whatever and had to have dueled Crump next. That didn't happen. Well done, Taya. We also have Joey defeating Johnson as Judgeman, Kaiba defeating Lecter as Jinzo, and with only one Big Five member left, are we gonna go 5 for 5? No, somebody has to let down the team. Sadly, Tristan, Duke, and Serenity failed to soundly defeat Nesbit. And because of this, Tristan loses his body. Tristan then becomes host to all 5 of the Big Five members. The Big Five members then challenge Yugi and Joey to a duel, and this will get another assist. Yugi and Joey work together to defeat the Big Five. It's another one of those 50-50 assists. Even though it is Yugi to deal the final blow in the end, it does sort of shift a little bit towards Yugi, but both players contributed a lot, so it was a shared burden kind of duel. And we're still not done. Kaiba goes out of his way and solo defeats Gozaboru Kaiba with his Exodia Necros deck. So that's actually really cool. Kaiba has dealt with 2 threats in this season. Can he make it 3 threats by defeating Noah Kaiba, the main villain of the season? Well, he gives it a good try, and he would have beat him. But out of duel shenanigans, he starts threatening Mokuba, attack me, Mokuba dies as well, Kaiba has to throw the duel. Yugi steps in, and I'm hesitant to say this was a Kaiba and Yugi 50-50 thing because Yugi takes over Kaiba's deck, mixes it with his own, so he's kind of contributing. But Yugi has to start the duel with no cards in his hand, since that's what Kaiba had when the duel finished. His life points are at like 300, I think. So yeah, it's more of a hindrance, if anything. So Yeah, Yugi clutched on that one. Kaiba just couldn't get that final one. But out of duel shenanigans, what are you going to do? So yeah, solid team contribution this season, which is unusual because this is a non-canon season. And of course, everybody gets to do stuff apart from Yugi in the non-canon season. In the next season, which is also non-canon, the same thing's going to happen. So it's interesting. Now, during this arc, the threats are the members of Doma, who want to defeat the main characters, send their souls to the Great Leviathan, and the main villain, Darts, who is trying to revive the Great Leviathan and take over the world, I think it is. So, did anyone other than Yugi deal with the members of Doma, or Darts himself? Well, yes. The first duel we get, Yugi beats Garimo, the first member of Doma. Duke and Rebecca duel against Valon. Luckily, this is a low-stakes duel, and they lose anyway, so not that Valon would have been sent to the Great Leviathan if he lost this duel, but it might have made him change his ways or something. Beating people in duels always seems to radically change their ideology, so Yugi goes on to defeat Weevil. However, Joey defeats Rex Raptor. Well done, Joey, that's a threat defeated. However, we're not done. Joey then goes and defeats Valon, one of the core Doma members. That is a big win. One of the 3 core members is now eliminated. Big contribution. Following this, Joey goes on to duel against Mai and ultimately loses against her since he didn't have the heart to defeat her. However, this is kind of a contribution as while he didn't eliminate the threat, Mai swaps sides here and turns against Darts. So in a way, you could call this as Joey's last final clutch, even in defeat, which I think would be fair. Unfortunately though, it meant nothing because Mai gets off-screened by Raphael. Speaking of Raphael, while the Pharaoh is originally defeated by Raphael and Yugi has to sacrifice himself so the Pharaoh can go on, Yugi then returns and defeats Raphael. Raphael survives, swaps sides, goes and fights Darts, and also gets off-screened by him. So, oh well. We also have Kaiba defeating Alistair, another core member of Doma, so that is 2/3 of Doma eliminated by the side characters. Yugi got the last one. Well, he converted him and technically Darts finished him off, but still, not bad, good contribution. And then we get the final duel. Yugi and Kaiba together duel Darts. Now with this one, both duelists don't make it to the end of the duel. Kaiba is eliminated midway through this duel. He contributes a lot, don't get me wrong. And in my duel analysis video, I established that if Kaiba had dueled Darts alone, or if he would have been a bit more selfish in that duel, he probably would have beat Darts. Yugi is the one to ultimately defeat Darts, and he has to do so much work towards the end of the duel that it does swing a lot more in Yugi's favor since he had to get an infinite attack +1 monster on the board. It's a contribution from Kaiba, I'll give it. So yeah, overall, good contributions from the side characters this arc. Full disclosure, I made this entire video, edited it, you know, all that jazz, and then I realized, wait, am I forgetting an arc? Oh my god, the Grand Championship arc. Just completely slipped my mind, that's why I look different now. So yeah, this is after the fact. This time the threat is Siegfried von Schroeder, who wants to beat Kaiba to hopefully steal his partnership with Industrial Illusions. Honestly, a very low stakes season. And then after Siegfried, the new threat becomes defeat Leon, who is using an illegal card, which holds a virus that is running rampant, deleting all of Kaiba Corp's files. This is again another tournament arc kind of thing. So while Yugi isn't the focus of this story, people are just dueling for their own stakes, and in fact, the majority of the story is so low stakes that there's actually no threat until it later reveals itself. We get Yugi beating the Rogue Computer, Joey beating Solomon Muto. Siegfried does eventually beat Joey, and then Leon beats Rebecca. So Joey and Rebecca technically didn't clutch for Yugi, could have defeated them early on, and then the threat would have just been gone. No clutch for them. However, we do get Seto Kaiba calling out Siegfried, challenging him to a duel, and guess what? He beats him, one of the main villains of an arc defeated by Seto Kaiba. That's fantastic, and it's really good because if he hadn't beat him, it would have meant that Yugi would have had to have played Leon and then would have had to play Siegfried von Schroeder in a row. That's a lot of pressure. Now, of course, Yugi is the one to defeat Leon von Schroeder and the illegal card that is running rampant. However, we've got Kaiba on the sidelines, I think,
trying to stomp down the virus in Golden Castle, and Yugi is the one to ultimately defeat it in the end. And it's not like anybody could have took his place in this moment. It was just the finals of the tournament. Nobody knew what was going on, so yeah. So the moral of the story is Joey and Rebecca unfortunately didn't clutch for Yugi, but Kaiba pretty much did. There you go. I can't believe I forgot this arc. I don't dislike it or anything. I just completely forgot it existed.
Now, the Millennium World Arc is a funny one. There's not that many duels in this season, which unfortunately for me makes it the least memorable for me personally, and it's the one I remember the least amount. So I had to ask for a little bit of help off you guys from my community posts to remind me of any time side characters won some duels. Quickly, just to establish, what is the goal of this arc? Well, it is to defeat Bakura and defeat Zork Necrophase, the two big bad villains, and then after all that is done, defeat the Pharaoh himself to send him to the afterlife. Now, unfortunately this season, there's no 100% clutches where someone just literally eliminates a threat. They're always helpful. They help the main characters to ultimately defeat them, but nobody does the work for Yugi this season. Shimon, for example, tries to defeat Zork with Exodia, but fails, ultimately leaving it to Atem to do this. Mahad tries to defeat Bakura, but fails. However, he sacrifices himself to become the Dark Magician, Yugi's lifelong companion. Priest Seto fails to defeat Akhenaten. However, Kasara, well, not part of the main cast, helps in the defeat of Akhenaten at the cost of her own life, however, also becoming a lifelong companion to Kaiba. And of course, we've got Yugi and his friends all contributing to get the final result that we wanted for this season. However, we do have two duels this season. We have Kaiba versus Bakura. However, this duel gets interrupted. And we have the big one, Yugi alone versus Bakura. And Yugi wins, defeating Bakura. That's a big thing. And again, I know it's still the main character, but it's also the lesser version. However, at this point, we established that, oh, wait a minute. Maybe he's as good as the Pharaoh. That'll come important in a minute. But yeah, Yugi wins the duel here. And then finally we move on to the ultimate clutch of all time. The Pharaoh needs to be defeated in a duel. Who would be able to defeat the most powerful duelist in the entire series, who can will any card he wants to the top of his deck? Why, Yugi, of course. And he manages to clutch for the Pharaoh, defeat him, and send him to the afterlife. But with that, that is all the times the side characters clutched for the main character instead. It's nice to give the main character a little break every now and then. That's a lot of pressure to put on a guy, despite how good of a duelist he is. Want to watch a video on Yugi? Well, I have a video right here. Or if you'd rather watch me doing life stuff, IRL, well, I have a video right here. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I'll catch you later.